I'm Courtney Cole, and I am joined by Grant Welker at the Boston Business Journal, our partner here at WBZ. And we are talking about two places that people typically think of as vacation spots. But if you're from here, then you know that there are hardworking people that live there all year round. And today we're talking about affordable housing in both of those places. We're going to start to see at least some relief. There are a pair of developments on the way on Martha's Vineyard, as well as on Mashpee on Cape Cod. And Grant, I can't wait to talk about this. You wrote an article, which I have right here, on these developments. So start off by telling us about this affordable housing development on Martha's Vineyard.
Yes, so it's in the town of Oak Bluffs, which is one of the main ports on the island. Lots of restaurants, lots of shops. They have a lot of workforce needs that are in the kind of middle of the workforce, not the luxury housing and really high-end stuff that the Vineyard can be known for. All of that in the economy relies on everyday people who have a really hard time living on the island. It's also so hard to find space on the island, especially a place uh, to live, to build homes like this that are accessible for people to get to their jobs easily, whether by car or by bus. And the island has a lot of preservation land that keeps properties from being built on, and it's a place that really prizes how bucolic it is, and that sense of an old-fashioned feel for its coast and its rural places. So something like a luxury or a residential tower is not really going to cut it. Not in a place like the Vineyard or in a place like the Cape. For a solution like this, the state has to really step up. And in this case, with the Oak Bluffs project, the state is paying almost the entire $50 million cost.
Yes, that was also surprising to me that it's going to be financed by roughly $48 million in state funding. I'm like, oh my goodness, that is a commitment for sure.
It is, yeah. It shows how much of a priority it is for Governor Healy and her team that they have contributed a lot more funding towards whether it's market rate or affordable housing. We need more housing anywhere and everywhere we can get it. That's especially so in and around the Boston area, and very much so on the Cape and the islands too.
And speaking of the Cape, let's talk about the other development that's going to be in Mashpee Commons, and it's actually right in the middle of a lot of different busy shops.
So, and it makes sense that it's in Mashby Commons. It's accessible. It's right on Route 28. It's right in between Falmouth and Hyannis, two very big towns with a lot of workforce needs. And similar to the Vineyard, but a little less so. There's not a lot of land on the Cape that is zoned for housing or can fit it in between. The coast is taken up by people who have the money to live on the coast.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of wetlands and other preservation land. So a place that makes sense, increasingly so, is a place like Mashpee Commons, where it is already denser. It is mixed use. It's on a pretty popular, busy thoroughfare. And it's a place where I think it's welcome. If you're a shopping center, increasingly those are mixed use. And so they do like to have people living right there. It fits into that kind of old time town center feel that Mashpee Commons has. A benefit that's aside from affordable housing, but a nice perk as well.
Now, I know that we've talked about it when we've talked about the development in Martha's Vineyard and now the development in Mashpee Commons. But I just want to explicitly talk about why these developments are so necessary.
Yeah, it's just so expensive to live anywhere on the Cape or the islands that many live out of the region entirely and commute over the bridges over the Cape Cod Canal. It gets plenty of press for you folks or for us about the workforce housing needs in the Boston area. But if you're commuting into Boston, we have the T, we have a bus network. There's a lot of ways to get into the city that people can commute from farther away. It's not desirable, it's not great, but it can be done. On the Cape and especially on Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard, it's far, far harder. They're commuting into traffic along with everybody else on the Sagamore Bridge or the Bourne Bridge. So that's doable to commute from off the Cape if you are working at a place like Falmouth or Hyannis. It's really not feasible if you're in, say, like Chatham or Provincetown or further along in the Cape. And it's nearly impossible to commute from off island if you're on Nantucket. It's a long ferry ride. Even the Vineyard has people commuting by ferry each day, but it's expensive and it's time consuming. And
Mhm.
then to get to, if you are on the Cape or if you are on the islands, rent on the Cape is, depending on the type or the source of the data, somewhere from 1,800 to beyond $3,000 a month. If you're talking about housing, even a condo is close to half a million. Houses on the Vineyard are over a million typically, and it's a couple million on Nantucket. Both places have launched initiatives to try to provide for these affordable housing. And I should say the Vineyard in particular deserves credit for they've had a system in place for a long time that each town in the Vineyard, they'll take a certain percent on every property sale and put it towards preservation and affordable housing. And with all the high-priced residential sales on the Vineyard, they've contributed quite a bit.
And speaking of the response to the need being so great, even in the last month, you have Vineyard and Nantucket hospitals that have also launched initiatives.
Yeah, and the fact that you have private employers that are taking it upon themselves to go ahead really shows you how significant the need is. Of course, the hospitals are huge employers on both islands, so they do have more of an ability to do that than, say, a smaller restaurant or maybe a construction firm might have for their workers. But just in the last couple of weeks, Martha's Vineyard Hospital opened a 48 unit development that cost them $30 million. And Nantucket Cottage Hospital said that they're going to start a $50 million campaign for housing on their island. And in both cases, they're in such dire need for more healthcare staff. And it's so hard for both to draw workers to live there. They might love to live on the Vineyard or on Nantucket, but can they afford it? On many salaries, people can't. And again, the fact that you have them directly providing these housing projects on their own really speaks to how significant of an issue it's become.
Now, the developments we've talked about specifically today, Martha's Vineyard and Mashby Commons, are great, but are there more? Because we know this is a good start, but we know that there still needs to be access to more affordable housing.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Is a good start. It is a start. It is helpful. Every little bit helps. That goes for housing anywhere across the region or across the state. The Healy administration has made it a priority with a housing development bill that contributes lots of money to market rate or affordable restricted homes, and that goes in neighborhoods and parts of the region that really need it. Of course, closer to where the jobs are, it goes in lower priced communities and those that are higher priced. This state sees it as something where they need to become more very directly involved in as well. People may know of the MBTA communities law that requires cities and towns near the T, whether it's subway or commuter rail, to zone for more dense development. That's a starting point as well that just puts the zoning in place, doesn't create those developments, not right away at least. But the state does see it as having to take a lot of these different routes to make it possible for people to continue to live here. It's been a problem for a long time that people are leaving Massachusetts for more affordable states. And if we want to keep them here, it is up to the state or to municipalities to step up and help make that happen so that the projects can make sense to be developed.
Now, was there anything else you want to make sure that you mentioned specifically about the affordable housing on the Cape and Islands that I didn't ask you?
No, but I don't think so. I think we covered it pretty well. It is a significant issue that's not going to go away, especially as housing just gets more and more out of reach for so many people. That will require greater and greater efforts from elected officials.
Well, Grant Welker with the Boston Business Journal, we thank you. And until our next conversation,
Of course, thanks for having me as always.
thank you.